Tuesday, the second week of February, 7:10 in the evening. You have stood in this room. Every treadmill is running. Someone circles the bench press, pretending not to wait. There is a line for the one stall that locks. Now find the placard by the door. One number, the most people the fire code will allow inside at once. 20,000 square feet of gym floor, 400. Then look at the file behind the desk. The average Planet Fitness Club carries 7,200 members. 18 memberships for every body the room is legally permitted to hold. That is not overselling. That is the design. Come back Wednesday in October. Count the row. 20 machines, 9 moving. The easy answer is that nobody goes. The Health and Fitness Association's own count says otherwise. In 2025, 4.6% of members never used a membership once. People go, they just never go on the same night. The rest are asleep at 4 in the morning when the money moves anyway. Nobody asks. Nobody has to. In 2024, 40% of members entered a club in a given 30-day period. The other 60% were billed for a room they did not enter. That transaction is the business. The room is the advertisement. You have been in that 60%. Most months, most people are. And the room did not miss you. It was built not to. Which leaves a stranger question than the one you walked in with. If the members who stop coming are the best thing that ever happens to a gym, why do so many gyms still die?
1. What you are actually buying. Almost every number after this comes out of a document somebody had to sign their name to. 2 of them. Lifetime collected $3,531 from the average membership in 2025. Planet Fitness collected $19.51 a month in dues plus a $49 annual fee. A lifetime membership is a household. Planet Fitness counts individuals. Correct for that, and the distance barely closes. Neither of those is a fitness number, both are subscription numbers. 81 million Americans used a gym or studio in 2025, a record. About a quarter of everyone aged 6 and over. Nobody in this business has a customer problem. Here is what changes the moment you stand on the other side of that desk. You think the thing being sold is a room. Rubber floor, mirrors, treadmills, the part you can see, and the part that bills its owner every month whether anyone walks in. What is actually being sold is a billing file. Planet Fitness says so in its own risk factors. The business relies on memberships continuing month to month after any initial term ends. 92% of members at its corporate clubs pay by automatic bank transfer. At the premium end, the shape is identical. Lifetime booked $2.9 billion of center revenue in 2025. Dues and enrollment fees were 72.6% of it. Training, the cafe, the spa, the pool, the courts, everything that looks like a gym made up the rest. The equipment is the cost. The subscription is the product. Which means the member the building wants is not the one you assume. First, somebody chooses which one to sell you. 2. Pick your model. The cheapest gym in America and the most expensive one are 11 times apart. Not on the sign, on the monthly dues. $19.51 at Planet Fitness, about $214 at Lifetime. The budget box. $15 for a classic card, $24.99 for a black card, $49 a year on top. 2/3 of members take the more expensive card. Those are prices for new members. Millions of existing ones were grandfathered lower, which is why the blended figure the company reports is $19.51. Mid-market. Crunch's franchised clubs averaged $2,770,000 of gross revenue in 2024. The median Anytime Fitness did $398,982. A mean against a median, so not a clean ratio, but roughly 7-to-1. Premium. Lifetime runs 189 clubs averaging 97,000 square feet, 5 Planet Fitnesses stacked into one lease. Boutique. 1,500 to 2,500 square feet. Exponential's average studio does $695,000 a year. The naive version says charge more, earn more. The filings say otherwise. A Planet Fitness open more than a year runs roughly $2 million in volume. Exponential, the boutique franchisor, lost $53.7 million in 2025. The cheapest membership in America is attached to the healthiest gym in America. That is not a coincidence. Planet Fitness charges 11 times less because it built a room that costs almost nothing to run, then filled it with people who never make it run. Everything after this is downstream of that one decision.
3. The empty box. The most expensive square footage in a gym has no equipment standing on it. Planet Fitness's 2025 franchise disclosure puts leasehold improvements, the empty box, before a single machine at $1,250,000 at the low end. On the 20,000-foot club, its filings describe $6,250 a square foot for nothing. The parts you can see are cheap. Rubber flooring lists at $1.83 a square foot. Floor the entire room for about 3% of that number. The money is in what you cannot see. The mechanical code does not count floor space. It counts bodies. 40 per 1,000 square feet in a class studio, 10 per 1,000 on a weight floor. 20 cubic feet of fresh outside air a minute for every one of them, which means a 3,000-foot spin room needs more outside air than a 10,000-foot weight floor.
The smallest room in the building sizes the plant on the roof. Exhaust is a second bill. Every shower head and every toilet throws conditioned air out, and the code makes you buy it back, heat it, cool it, and dry it. Retail air conditions a room. Gym air conditions bodies, hundreds of them, converting food into heat and water inside a box the code will not let you underventilate. So, filed. An Anytime Fitness opens for about $500,000. A Crunch, $2 million. A Planet Fitness, $3 million. A Lifetime, $25 to $30 million before one treadmill is plugged in. The Planet Fitness leasehold line alone outruns an entire Anytime Fitness build, and nothing in the room has moving parts yet. 4. The Equipment Trap. Planet Fitness sold $310.1 million of gym equipment in 2025, most of it not to new owners, to people who already own a Planet Fitness. Franchisees must buy from the company or its required vendors and replace every 5 to 9 years. Equipment revenue grew about $54 million in 2025. $47 million of that came from clubs already open, $6.5 million from new ones. Equipment is not a startup cost, it is a subscription the owner pays. 2 ways to carry it, and both are traps. Buy it. Anytime Fitness's disclosure puts equipment at $138,000 at the low end. The tax code lets an owner deduct it outright, which sounds generous until you notice a deduction is not cash. The cash is gone. A commercial treadmill that listed at $9,995 sells refurbished at $2,895. 71% evaporated. Or lease it. Equipment leases carry a clause called hell or high water. That is not a nickname. It is written into the commercial code. The moment you sign for delivery, the payments stop depending on anything at all. The machines break, you pay. Nobody comes, you pay. You close the doors for good, you pay. And whichever one you pick, you sign personally. Anyone holding 20% or more of the business has to guarantee an SBA loan out of their own name. There is no ordinary version without it. You cannot bankrupt your way out either. Bankruptcy wipes the debt of the debtor. It says nothing about anyone else who signed. The LLC was the debtor. You were the anyone else. The gym can die. The guarantee cannot. That is true in every building. What is not true in every building is how much comes through the door. Not how busy, where.
5. The radius $5,280,380 and $283,269. 2 Planet Fitness clubs, same year, same sign, same price on the door. The 2025 franchise disclosure splits 2,197 franchise clubs into thirds by membership revenue. The bottom third averages $1,205,580. The top third, $2,613,753. Inside that spread sit those 2 buildings. Nothing about the operator explains it. The building does. Planet Fitness will not tell you what its franchisees keep. It says it does not get complete expense information from them. It will tell you what its own clubs keep. Same shape, bottom third to top third, revenue roughly doubles, costs rise 48%, and the margin doubles with them. Rent is why. Top third clubs pay more rent in dollars and far less as a share of what comes in. 23% at the bottom, 16.3% at the top. The lease rises by 40%. The revenue doubles. So the question is never how big the city is, it is how many people will drive past 3 other gyms to reach this one. Price has to match the ground under it. Planet Fitness sells under $25. Lifetime sells at $214 in dues. Neither works in the other's postcode. Then the rent. Planet Fitness's middle third corporate club paid $375,022 in occupancy on a 20,000-foot box, $1,875 a square foot, which leaves the one thing the building cannot decide, whether the people who signed up ever walk in. 6. The absence engine. 42 cents of every dollar. That is the gap between what the average member paid and what the same workouts would have cost at the door. Not taken, volunteered. The paper is Paying Not to Go to the Gym, American Economic Review, 2006. Delavigne and Malmandier got the raw attendance files for 7,752 members of 3 American health clubs. Members on the flat monthly contract attended 4.3 times a month. That is $17.27 a visit. The same clubs sold a 10-visit pass at $10 a visit. They also asked members to predict. Among that group, average forecast, 9.5 visits a month. Actual, 4.17. Nobody was lying. The contract was priced against the forecast. Now the room. Lifetime's 97,000 square feet allow 1,940 bodies. It ended 2025 with 4,351 memberships per club, 2 for every legal occupant, 2, not 18. And Lifetime counts memberships, not people. Count bodies and it is worse than 2. Still nowhere near 18. Here's why. Lifetime members actually go 149 visits per membership in 2025. Set that against center operations and rent of $1.91 billion and $15.59 of building cost sits behind every visit.
Most of it is fixed whether the member comes or not, which is the point. The cost is already spent. The member who never arrives is the only one who does not consume it. The attending member costs money. The absent member is a line in a database that bills itself. Which means a gym is not selling you a room, it is selling you the odds that you will not use it and pricing those odds in its own favor. Planet Fitness built that trade deliberately. No pool, no spa, no courts, no cafe. A room whose running cost barely moves whether 40 people are in it or 400. The margin never came from filling it. Now, the part of that paper nobody quotes. The members who paid extra for the right to leave whenever they wanted were 17% more likely to still be enrolled a year later than the ones on annual contracts. The annual contract expires. The monthly one renews itself, quietly, forever, and nobody has to trap you for that to work. You did not buy the gym. You bought the option to begin, and you kept it open. If you have ever paid for a month you did not use, you were not the gym's failure. You were its margin. Subscribe. The rest of this is what it costs to stand on the other side of that transaction. And tell me in the comments how many months you kept paying after you stopped going. Most people buy that option in the same 4 weeks. 7. The January problem. Planet Fitness added more than 700,000 net members in the first 3 months of 2026. 2/3 of a typical full year of growth in before April. That is the January business, and building around it is not stupid. They do show up. In the first quarter of 2025, the Planet Fitness members who came averaged 6.7 visits a month, the highest quarterly utilization in 5 years. Q1 is the high watermark. It is not the year. And January is shrinking. The Health and Fitness Association tracks foot traffic across 10,290 facilities. Between 2018 and 2020, budget gyms saw December to January visits jump 44 to 49%. In 2026, that jump was 20%. At luxury clubs, 9. At boutique studios, 5. Then January starts giving it back. Both things are true of the same quarter: record joins and departures at the top of the historical band. Planet Fitness told investors first quarter 2026 attrition ran at that top end and blamed an elevated January. The cash arrives in 1 quarter. The costs arrive in 12. Rent, the equipment note, payroll, the ad fund. All 12 months of it funded by one. 2 owners get the same January. One banks it as a year of working capital. The other reads a full lobby as permanent. Watch the first. Planet Fitness had a softer than usual January in 2026, and by May 7th had paused its national price increase and cut full-year same-club sales guidance from 4 to 5% to about 1. Now the second. Town Sports International, which ran New York sports clubs, read the lobby as permanent. Its auditors filed a going concern warning before a single gym closed. Hold that name, because the members who arrive in January leave on their own schedule, unless leaving is made difficult.
8. The exit is a maze. 3.7 million members, more than 600 locations, 1 cancellation form on a login-gated page delivered by certified mail at the member's own expense. In August 2025, the FTC sued the operators of LA Fitness. The complaint describes that form, or delivery in person to one named employee during limited weekday hours. Childcare and towel service needed separate forms. The case is still live. The company says it now offers online cancellation in fewer clicks than signing up. For years, it offered none. The federal click-to-cancel rule is dead. An appeals court killed it 6 days before it took effect on a technicality about procedure. What the FTC opened in March 2026 was not a replacement rule. It was a list of questions, including whether a rule is needed at all. No draft text, no date for one. The states filled it. New York's law took effect in February 2025. Join on the website, cancel on the website. Colorado, Massachusetts, and Connecticut have each passed a version since. New York fined Equinox $600,000 in May 2025 for exactly this. Planet Fitness turned online cancellation on in May 2025, 2 months before the federal rule that would have required it died. Management then told shareholders attrition rose because of it. They measured the cost of the exit precisely. And here is the part that ends the argument. Friction is not why people overpay in the first place. Those same 2006 economists priced the entire effort of canceling at under $15. Members still handed over $187 across months in which they entered the building 0 times. $15 of hassle, $187 of dues. They were not trapped. They were waiting to become the person who used it. The industry spent 30 years building a maze to solve a problem that was never the maze. 9. Franchise or independent? Orange Theory takes 11% off the top, an 8% royalty, a 3% brand fund charged on gross sales, before rent, before staff, before anyone has paid themselves anything. The average Orange Theory studio grossed $857,377 in the 2025 disclosure document. 11% is $94,311 a year, gone before the lights are paid for. Over a 10-year term, on flat revenue, $943,000. More than one studio's entire annual sales.
That is the pitch, and the pitch is real as far as it goes. You are buying a brand people already search for. The entry fee is the small part. $20,000 to sign a Planet Fitness, $60,000 an F45. The build is what you saw earlier. The gap is what the document will not tell you. A franchise disclosure tells you what studios earn, it does not tell you what they keep. Orange Theory's earnings section is revenue only. No expenses, no profit. F45 discloses gross sales and states that franchisees are not required to report operating costs. The single number that decides whether anyone should do this is the one the document systematically will not give. The fee also behaves differently when things go wrong. F45 charges the greater of 7% of gross sales, or $2,500 a month. The median F45 studio grossed $429,222. Below roughly $428,000, the floor bites. The bottom third averaged $265,351, which makes their real royalty about 11%, not 7%. The fee is a percentage when you win and a tax when you lose. And the royalty is the bill you can see. 10. The bills nobody budgets. 60 songs, $9 million. Federal copyright law sets statutory damages at $750 to $30,000 per song, and up to $150,000 each if a court finds the infringement willful. 60 songs on one class playlist. The ceiling is $9 million. The obvious defense fails. Spotify licenses an account for personal, non-commercial use. Apple's terms say the same. A gym is neither. So you pay the performing rights organizations. ASCAP's 2026 fitness schedule starts at $545 a year for a club running group classes. A cheaper tier covers ambient music only and voids the moment you hold one class. BMI charges by the member, CSS by the location. And then Global Music Rights, which publishes no rate card and says the other 3 licenses do not cover its catalog. These organizations send people into clubs to listen. BMI sued a single athletic club in Michigan in 2022. Orange Theory's operating company was sued over music in November 2024. Both ended quietly. Neither published a number. Which is the problem. You cannot budget it, and the people who have paid it are not permitted to say what it cost. Then the lines nobody writes down. Planet Fitness's franchise disclosure puts a mid-performing corporate club at $72,970 a year in utilities. $6,000 a month to keep the lights and the air on. Cleaning, supplies, and repairs, $85,719. And insurance, the cost everyone braces for, is the smallest. At Anytime Fitness's company-owned clubs, it ran $3,200 a year, 0.6% of revenue. Music, power, cleaning, repairs, cover. None of this changes based on how busy you are. Scale does not fix that, it multiplies it. 11. The Giants Who Fell. Bally Total Fitness carried negative $1.4 billion of shareholder equity while operating 375 clubs and 3.5 million members. Off the balance sheet sat $1.03 billion of contracted future rent. It restructured in 2007. A little over a year after coming out, Bally filed again, and the one that should have been unkillable. If the absent member is the best customer in this business, 24 Hour Fitness had 3.4 million of them. It ran 445 locations and leased every one. It owned no real estate. Against 2019 revenue of $1.5 billion, it carried $1.43 billion of debt. At that ratio, a 3-month closure is not a setback, it is the end. In June 2020, it filed Chapter 11 with under $9 million in the bank, rejected roughly 135 leases on day 1, and kept closing through the summer. It emerged that December having erased $1.2 billion of debt with 286 clubs left. The lenders took 95% of the equity. And Town Sports, from a moment ago, it owed the banks $183 million. It owed its landlords $607. The going concern warning was not a judgment call, it was arithmetic. $178 million due in November 2020 and $19 million in the bank. None of this was ever a demand problem. Blink Fitness filed Chapter 11 in 2024, owing roughly $280 million. The next year, American Gym membership hit a record. Not one of these companies ran out of members. They ran out of the gap between a fixed cost and a customer who leaves. Closing that gap is the entire operating job. 12. Running to stand still. Planet Fitness and its franchisees spent over $360 million on advertising in 2025 to finish the year with 1.1 million more members than they started with. That is about $36 of marketing for every member who signed up. Cheap. The expensive part is that it took roughly 10 million of them to end the year up 1.1. The reason is attrition. Management put it at 3.8% a month. Compounded, roughly 37% of the base is gone in 12 months. A separate benchmarking study across 17,000 facilities found annual retention of 66.4%. 2 different measures, the same answer. About a third of the members leave every year. Now, one building. The average Anytime Fitness franchise carries 677 members. Losing a third means finding 226 replacements, 19 strangers a month, forever, to end the year exactly where it began. Nobody puts that number in a franchise pitch. Subscribe if you want the owner income figures. They are next. So the building sells something else. In Anytime Fitness's 2025 disclosure, the average franchise books $74,006 of personal training. In the chain's own corporate gyms, $191,824, against $529,223 of revenue. 36 cents of every corporate dollar comes from training, not dues. Here is the trap. Lifetime employs over 11,100 certified fitness professionals and sells about 220,000 one-to-one sessions a month between them. 20 sessions per professional per month. Not because a trainer cannot work more hours. Median trainer pay is $22 an hour, and they would take the work. Because there are not enough members willing to buy the hour. The ceiling is not the trainer, it is you. Small group breaks it. A $90 one-to-one session becomes $50 a head. 4 people in that hour is $200 instead of $90. Fewer dollars per client, far more per hour. Which brings you to one question. 13. So, is it worth it? You have heard that 81% of gyms fail in the first year. Nobody has ever produced the study behind it. Not the sample, not the data set, not the year it was measured. It has been repeated for 8 years because it sounds right. Here is what the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually counted. Of establishments that opened in the year to March 2024, 78.4% in the gym sector were still open 12 months later. Roughly 60% survived 5 years. The economy-wide figure at 5 years is 51. Gyms do not fail more often than other small businesses. They fail more visibly. So what does one pay? $1,089,084, or $266,824. 2 Planet Fitness corporate clubs, 1 company, 1 year. The only variable that moved was which building the lease was signed on. A big box in the right place is genuinely good. That $1,089,084 of earnings came on $2,585,178 of revenue, 42%. The same box in the wrong place clears $266,824 on $1,277,129, 21%, before $1 of debt service on the build-out. Small box in the ceiling drops with the entry price. Anytime Fitness's 11 company-owned centers averaged $144,002 of earnings on $529,223 of revenue, 27% after paying a manager. The honest number, because the franchisor owns those gyms and must publish the whole page. Independent is the wide one. That benchmarking study puts the median margin at 23.6%, with 2/3 of clubs earning something before interest and depreciation. 1 in 3 could not clear even that bar before $1 of debt service in a record year. 14. Closing reframe. So, you were the most profitable member that gym ever had. That part was true. It was never the part that decided anything. Go back to the room. 400 bodies allowed on the floor, 7,200 on the file. That looked like the trick. It is not the trick. It is the tolerance. The absent member funds the room. The room decides nothing. Look at where the money landed in 2025. Planet Fitness's franchise segment turned $467,958,000 of revenue into $336,592,000 of adjusted earnings, 72%. Its corporate club segment, treadmills, mirrors, rent, converted at 37.8, barely half the margin. The most profitable division of the largest gym company in America does not operate a single gym. It sells the right to operate one. And through a separate segment, it sells the equipment franchisees are contractually required to replace every 5 to 9 years. That is why 24-Hour Fitness died with 3.4 million members on the file. The absence was never the problem. The absence was the only thing working. Every number here points the same way. Demand has never been higher. Exponential still terminated 349 licenses while selling 179. And in March 2026, the FTC won a $17 million judgment against it over how those franchises were sold. No franchisee has seen $1 of it. The industry is not starved of customers. It is full of owners who bought the wrong side of it. If you want the next one built the same way, out of filings instead of guesses, subscribe. Tuesday at 7:10, the room is full. Wednesday in October, 9 machines out of 20. Neither night is the business. The business is the file behind the desk, and your name is in it. You were never the product. You were the float. The money a business holds and spends long before it ever owes you anything back.